Welcome to the Talent Development Hot Seat. I'm your host, Andy Storch, and I'm excited that you're joining me today for another great episode and conversation to help you up your game and improve your capabilities in the world of talent development. And I've got a really thoughtful talent leader joining us today to talk about all kinds of different topics around talent management and talent development, including the difference between the two. Andrew Wilhelms is the VP of Talent Management at Databricks, a results-driven business and thought leader with over 15 years of experience in leadership and people development. Prior to joining Databricks, Andrew served as VP of Talent Management at Twilio, as well as head of global leadership development at Tesla and a few other organizations. Before that, he holds an MBA from USC Marshall School of Business, where I did my MBA as well, fight on, and a BA in philosophy from the University of Cal Berkeley. Andrew, welcome to the show.
So excited to be here.
We share a name and an MBA alma mater. We're off to a good start.
We're off to a great start.
So tell me about your background. How did you get into talent development, talent management in the first place?
Oh gosh, we're going back. So I was a philosophy degree in Berkeley in my undergrad, and I thought it was the path I was going for was seminary. I was going to go be a pastor.
Wow.
And along the way in undergrad, as I did more philosophy, it was actually this side gig where I got into a number of leadership spots in my fraternity and campus and other organizations I was part of. And then I started to do some work in some churches, and two realizations hit me. One is, I'm not sure I want to work in churches. These are not always these are tricky spots. So I started to kind of loosen my career aspirations. And then the other is I took on more leadership. What clicked for me was, this leadership stuff is tough. It's hard.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, as I kind of was wrestling with that, I found out that there were books written about it. And then there's like a whole industry that helps people lead well. And again, philosophy degree, I couldn't help but, so much of what happens is inertia based, but not everything. So the idea that we can intervene with the state of things and make it better, I just fell in love with. I want to be part of this leadership thing, and specifically this leadership development thing. And so my entire career has really just been trying to learn more and help people and build, better leadership for the planet, for the companies I work for myself. Just that was the path. It's just trying to be in this leadership space.
Makes sense. And you've been in it for a while now. What are some things that you discovered about leadership early on where you're like, this is really tricky. I want to get more involved in this, that you maybe still see today and you've been trying to solve?
I'll try and keep it not too abstract. The disclaimer again, philosophy degree and undergrad. Yeah. The first big idea that started to click for me was just the idea, what makes leadership powerful is the same thing that makes it really hard, which is what's the medium you're dealing with in leadership? It's will. It's that here's where things are, or here's where things are going. And I'm not okay with that. I think it should be a little bit different than it is, or I think we should be going in a different direction than we're going. So I'm going to do something about it. And it's that willpower of intervening, of getting in the way, or of driving something faster, or of moving something here. I love, I think it's Marcus Buckingham's definition of what is leadership, and it's rally people to a better future. And so the medium, what you're dealing with in leadership is will and willpower. And it starts with your own, and that it's tough to figure out, what do I care about? What do I want? What do I think should happen? That visioning, that kind of, what should the reality be? Not describing what it is and defining that, building it. And then the other part that makes it really hard is it's not just your willpower. Rally people to a better future. There's all these other folks around you that you got to bring into your leadership, and then eventually your leadership. And this is what, part of what I hate about English and love about English is that you word, where it can be both singular and plural. There's that power in leadership of, at some point, the you has got to become a plural you, or it's going nowhere. And so this kind of just dealing with human will, your own and the struggle of that, and others and the struggle of that, but all of it anchors down to these visions of this is what should be different, or this is what should be better, or this is what should be, period.
Yeah.
And let's go. Let's create energy to make that happen. So
Yeah.
that's like the core, and everything that makes it hard, everything that makes it rewarding somehow spins off of that.
Absolutely. I was curious, as you have been studying and thinking about leadership, we'll stick with this for a moment. Besides the fact that I think the biggest challenge in leadership or corporate leadership over the years is just that so many individual contributors are rewarded for being really good at what they do. And then, people say, congratulations, you're a leader now, go train other people to do what you do, without any sort of training or guidance on how to be a great leader. But what do you think are the other big things that prevent people from being great leaders, or hold people back, or trip them up in leadership?
I would say, I actually think one of those things is actually, I would argue that something I would challenge in the premise of the question, which is, when I think of leadership and the invitation to leadership, the opportunity to lead, the imperative to lead, is that tied to position in the company, and specifically a management position in the company, or not, or organization, if we want to take it out of companies, or, like institute, whatever it is you're trying to lead within your community, your neighborhood, your condo, board. There is definitely a relationship between formal management, even informal management, and this concept of leadership, but they are not the same thing. And I think that's the first thing I would kind of call to people, is the work of becoming a great leader starts well before you start taking on formal management. And you might never take on formal management in any sort of way and still look back and have phenomenal moments of leadership in your life and in your career. And you got to pull those two things apart. And then we can get into, okay, so if you do want to move up the management systems of the world, systems in your company, then the other thing that I want to help people, or I try and help people understand, is that your management, your authority in the system, is actually a detriment to your leadership of that system. It's a tax, it's a weight. It sometimes you can use it to help you, but more often than not, especially early on in your leadership and in your management journey, they fight against each other. And you'll go from, I mean, so many times you'll watch someone that was just a rock star captain of their team, who then becomes the coach, and the dynamic with the players is different. What they were able to get people to do with them and for them, and like for the mission, all of a sudden, why doesn't that same lever work anymore? How did this go? There's like this knowing how authority and leadership and management all dance together is so much of, I would argue, a person's kind of career development, career journey, and just learning how to lead in a system, then eventually how to hold power, formal authority in that system. And then just how do you get those two things to dance together super well? And they tend to not. Sometimes you'll just see those things stepping all over each other's toes. It makes it really tough.
Yeah, I agree with you. So is there anything that you or your organization does to help people prepare and understand this concept of leadership well before they move into any official capacity as a people manager or leader?
This has been one of my, I think you'd call it soapboxes, or kind of personal missions in every company. I think, starting with linkage to McKesson, to Tesla, to Twilio, to now Databricks, is this separating out, when we say leadership and leadership responsibility, we're not saying the same thing as management and management authority in the system. And there's a relationship, and both are super important. I'm not one of those folks that beats up on the concept of management to make leadership sound better. Like, they are both really, really critical, and they are related, but they are distinct. And it all starts with, as a company, your leadership framework. Is your leadership framework the thing that defines, this is that thing we call leadership? Here's how it matters. Here's what it looks like. Here's how we break it down. Does that framework apply just to the managers, or to the managers of manager, or to some level of executive in the company? Or does it apply to everyone in the company and really get folded into the entire talent profile through the company? And so again, back to my journey, and I think you brought up this relationship between talent development, leadership development in my case, and then talent management, and this, how are you managing the talent needs of the company, the relationship. This is one of those relationships in my mind, is like when I tried to work on building leadership in companies, I started to realize that just programs for individuals wasn't it. I had to get into owning the frameworks and the processes and the interventions, the programs outside of the learning programs that I was building and running into the talent frameworks and assessments. And this is, again, back to your core question. It needs to be in the philosophy of the company, where you really do think of leadership expectation as part of the talent profile. Now, what that does make a little bit tricky, and this was also an aha for us at McKesson and something we've carried forward since, is if leadership is expected of everyone in the company, then you've got to also nail where followership is needed. And actually, that's where it's trickier to build into your management expectations and your management model, the right degree of followership that makes room for leadership from the folks across the company who see things, and everyone should be coming up with pictures of what should be better, what should be different, and then being able to navigate pulling that off. Are you, as a manager, a multiplier of that, like an additive, someone that is coaching and guiding? And like I think it was Gary Hamel had this concept of the role of the manager is to amplify and to aggregate. And it's this idea of, imagine you got everyone on your team and you want to wake up their best leadership, their best contribution, the place where they're initiating things, driving impact. Are you amplifying where every one of them looks up and goes, man, I would hire this person to be my manager because of the value they provide to me? And then aggregate. It's this idea of, okay, you got every one of those individuals. Is it a symphony or is it a cacophony? Are they really working well together? So again, that's a pretty big answer to your question, which I'm not sure answers it. But again, you've got to think about it as a system, and you've got to start moving the levers of the system to where leadership is folded into the expectation of the in all those ways.
Right. Well, it gives people a lot of things to think about. And maybe I should prepare myself a little bit more when I am going to have a philosophy major on my podcast, because
small questions.
What is the purpose of life, Andrew?
Here we go. Let me pull out my dissertation.
But something you mentioned in there, I think is an important, interesting topic, and it is another philosophical one, or can be treated as such, which is the difference between talent management and talent development. Now, this podcast is called the Talent Development Hot Seat. Most people I speak with are in some form of learning development, talent development, but of course that bleeds often into talent management, performance management. And there, in many companies, these things are separated. In some organizations, they are merged under the same leader or the same group, or maybe it's a smaller company and one person does all of them. How do you think about the difference between talent development and talent management?
Yeah, I will. I'll give you my own journey into it, and then maybe try and answer the question more directly. But I was the manager of leadership development programs at McKesson. This was right after my MBA, and my job was to go build learning experiences, development experiences for levels of management, levels of leadership across McKesson. And honestly, I look back at what we were doing and I was like, these are pretty good. They were fun. They were informative. I could see people's eyes popping. I could see the impact on the individuals in the rooms and in the sessions and in the coaching call, like you name it. And then I'd go back and sit in these HR leadership rooms where we had, other parts of the people systems of the company talking about the needs of the company, and leadership kept coming. We just need more leadership, and we need people to be better here, or we need people to change here and move here. And I couldn't quite connect these two. I'm sitting there going, I'm in the room and I'm watching people wake up and change, and I'm watching how good they are in their core. And then I'm like, there's something not connecting when we're talking about what the company needed from its talent and its capability. And then I'm watching the program and what the individuals are learning and growing and how they're doing. And it was kind of like trying to connect the two dots there. I realized there's all these things in the company that are things like the talent review process, the performance review process, the talent planning or the workforce planning process. There's things like the culture survey where you're looking at culture. There's all these mechanisms where a company makes sense of what it has against what it needs, and then the things it should do to close the gap between what it has and what it needs. And that it started to click for me of, when I'm just focusing on the learning program, the development intervention for individuals or for small groups, and I'm not moving how those groups of talent are thought about and planned around and understood in the company through things like these talent reviews and performance reviews and all these other things, it was like feeding someone without their body having a digestive system. You're putting these nutrients in, but the thing can't get processed. It can't get used. And so this was my first foray into, oh, what's my job? Is my job to help individual people learn and grow and wake up? Or is my job to make sure that the company, the organization, is getting the talent and capability that it needs? And one of the levers of getting it is through people learning and growing and changing, right? And so it was kind of this flip for me of, oh, my job is not the development. My job is the talent and ensuring we have the talent, and development is one of the levers I can pull. And it's a phenomenal lever, and it, like, you've got to use it, like, for sure in my seat. But that's the flip. If you want to think about talent development, I'm narrowed in, and I'm very specifically thinking about our individuals or our groups of individuals building capability in themselves. When I flip into talent management, I think about the system around that talent, the company specifically, and does the company have the talent? And one of the levers to get it is through people learning and growing, sort of thing. So.
Okay, so just a difference in how you think about and approach the talent. Reminds me also, we spoke a few weeks ago and you mentioned something that I was really intrigued by, which was the next paradigm shift of talent. I wonder if you could talk more about your philosophy on that.
So there's a couple of these, but I'll give you the one I think I was thinking about, and then you tell me if I'm misremembering. But I think AI is already changing a lot of things. And I think that one of those things is going to be, we were talking earlier about management and leadership and how those two things are different. One of the things that is that jump from being an individual contributor to being a manager is this jump from, it's my contribution. It's how my time is delivering the words on the page, the idea on the slide, the brick in the wall, whatever it is that is the output of your time as a contributor. Like, when you shift into management, it's not your hand on the brick. It's how are you helping to contribute through others? And as AI comes into the world and becomes part of a productive workforce, I think it's going to be earlier and earlier and earlier where people need to think like managers, like sooner than thinking like contributors, where instead of, okay, how do I write this paper? Or how do I come up with this spreadsheet and create this model? It's instead, oh, wait, what talent or what capability in the broader space around me? And it could be AI agents, and most likely there's just going to be so much capability within your reach that you got to tap into in some combination of agents and bots and other people and yourself to kind of pull out that thing you're trying to drive. So this leadership capability I was talking about, of creating visions of what should be and why and what should be different and how, and then rallying all these forces to come together and to work together to make that shit happen, that stuff happen. Sorry. Like that's the job. Like AI is going to give everyone levers to reach into and to pull of unbelievably capable things, but you got to orchestrate it. You got to architect, you got to lead that. And so to me, I think this talent shift, one of the paradigms of the talent shift that's coming is, I think I've got 3 young boys, high school, and then 2 in junior high. And I've been thinking a lot about how to give them the career coaching. Like, what is it to build a career in the decade ahead that they're going to be kind of dropping into this thing called the workforce? And man, like, I just think it's going to change so much. You've got to start leading faster and sooner.
Right.
And you've got to start experimenting with the levers you're pulling, the tools. Start high. Like in my mind, I want you to think, I want to engage early career talent. People coming out of college, start thinking like an executive immediately and start thinking, what's the team I'm going to hire? Start testing these different models, figuring out how to put them to work, how to get them to work together. How do you organize it? What's the management system you're putting around it? I just think there's a huge shift going on right there around talent. I'm not sure if that's the one we were talking about or thinking.
Right. No, I think it was, because I was going to ask you all as well about how AI is changing the way you approach talent development and talent management. And one of the things there, I agree with you, like things are shifting. Obviously, we know AI is starting to replace a lot of jobs. And so what I hear you saying is people need to start thinking more from a holistic point of view of like, if I could hire people or bring in tools or resources to do the job, to be more productive, to be more effective, how would I set that up? Who would I go get? How would I lead that team? Because you're probably going to be leveraging more AI tools, because it in the future, it's not about doing individual tasks. It's really about the relationships, the strategy, the critical thinking, that what humans can really bring to the table over what the robots do.
It's a productivity multiplier. I mean, it's almost too reductive, but that whole line, I'm sure most of you have heard it from a number of different places. It's not AI that's going to take your job. It's someone that understands AI that's going to take your job. That's a little bit reductive, but it's not entirely wrong. It's going around because there's a wisdom to it. And this is, I think, the deeper side of that wisdom, which is, what does it mean to understand AI? It's like, you got like, get in and get to know that capability like it's talent, and think like a manager. Like, wait a minute, these are all, I get to hire ChatGPT into my life to help me pull things off. I get to know Claude and what Claude is good at and not good at. I get to figure out, how do I get ChatGPT and Claude to actually talk to each other to the extent that I've got them woven in to the things I'm trying to get done in my personal life or in my professional life or in those kind of weird gray areas in between. Like, okay, wait, well, hold on. Grok just came out, and wait, what does that thing do that these others don't? And what's the difference between the app of ChatGPT versus GPT-4? That's the model. Like, getting in and being a nerd about these components. It's akin to the folks, for those of us a couple of generations ahead into the working world, like that time when the PC started to move from being a toy to being a tool of productivity. That was not like this light switch moment. Right. It was filled with this period of time where there was a bunch of folks that played with those toys more than the rest of us.
Yep.
And man, if you knew how to put those pieces of those toys together to use software as a superpower for yourself, you were a 10x more productive contributor to this movement. AI is going to be that. You've got like play with these toys and learn how the pieces fit together. It is going to be so like, it's a multiplier. This is not an incremental productivity yet. Not from my, and I know folks could argue against this, but if you're asking where I'm putting my money, this thing is, you are going to see this, like people that know how to play with these things, know how to hire them, know how to organize, to amplify and aggregate. But including what an AI needs to be in your quote unquote staff. Like, man, you're just going to see 10x, 20x, 30x differences in productivity.
100% agree. On that note, on the subject of AI, are there any tools that you are using or that you have found to be helpful in talent development and how you develop people or create programs or things like that?
Yeah. So like, I mean, you asked the question, how we're thinking about AI. And so I'll answer that. And then I'll answer the second question. I think there's two ways to think about it. Two primary buckets that we're thinking about it in. Number one is, how should AI be a member of my staff and team? And how are we using AI to understand talent, to move talent, to intervene, to like do the work of talent management in the company? And there's a ton of ways that I see AI needing to and already starting to drop into the kind of levers we're pulling, the systems we're running, the programs we've built and that are part of kind of the work of talent management in the company, especially in talent development. For those of you that are learning and development specific folks, oh my gosh, right? Like needs assessment, like content creation, content curation, right? Like the channel management of who's got access to what content where. And like, I mean, it is already transformational. I don't know, for those of you played with Google Notebook, but you go in, you can drop one of your docs into Google Notebook and just say, make a podcast out of this.
Yeah.
That easy. And that thing will generate a 30, 45-minute podcast with artificial voices just talking about that doc. So if you're sitting there thinking, oh, you know what we should do as a podcast? That used to be like okay, we need a host, we need a mic, we got to come up with a production schedule. No, you just drop the doc that was written into this thing now, and now you got to like it. That is, I mean, we're going to see a whole range around the kind of L&D space. We already are. You can get your personalized coaches. We're already seeing these. We're in Databricks. We're experimenting with a manager coach that is an AI coach that's just going to, around performance assessment time, or when someone's going through the hiring process, or if someone has an ER or a performance management case. Hey, here's a coach you can work with through this case that will specifically guide you, not a document. Like that is going to be transformational. The talent assessment space. Why isn't AI telling me who the most talented people in the company are yet? Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's going to increase. So there's all this side of how we're folding AI into doing the work of talent management. But then the other side is, wait, part of what we do in HR, especially through the talent organization, is think about org design. And think about what is a team and how do teams work together, or what's a healthy team shape and size? What is the right number of levels and layers in a company? What's the right way to think about, how different departments work together and where reporting lines all go? As AI becomes more and more integrated and ingrained in the workforce, we got to think about AI as one of those capabilities that we're folding in to the whole system of capabilities of the company. So those are the two ways we're thinking about it is, how do we make sure AI is a productive part of our workforce and our organization? And also, how do we make sure AI is a productive part of our team and the work of our team? So.
I know a big part of what you do is also thinking about the people experience at Databricks, or what you call the Brickster experience. I wonder if you could talk about that, because I think that is becoming a more important part of talent development. It's not just about these individual programs, but what is the holistic experience from beginning to end, if there is one, and what are people saying about it to their friends and colleagues out in the workplace?
Yeah. So when folks ask, what's my job? What do I do for a company? The three adages that I've always gone to is better leadership, better talent, better performance, healthy culture, right? And so there's something in those four levers that have always been part of the targets we're shooting for. Is like, okay, is the caliber and the quality and the impact of the leadership in the company where it needs to be? What about the talent more broadly? And you could say those are one and the same thing. Leadership is just one category of talent that we're thinking about. Then there's this issue of, like, you got to have all the talent in the world, but is it performing? Is it working individually and collectively at its maximum potential, at its maximum capacity? I think I'm stealing this idea from Liz Wiseman, who wrote Multipliers and a bunch of other
impact
pieces.
players.
Yeah, but like at some point in some work we had done with Liz, there was this concept that came out of what I summarize as the talent utilization rate. Think about all the talent in your team or in the people around you. What percentage of that talent is actually becoming results, things that are, impactful to the company, to the world, to your neighborhood, whatever it is? And the answer is never 100%. There's always a gap between what is possible and what actually happens. This is the relationship in my mind between what I call kind of the talent density of the company, which is a lot of what I'm shooting for, is how do we grow the talent density and have really great talent in all the places we need it. But that won't be enough if we then provide that great talent with a really crappy or a really convoluted or a really disconnected work experience. Then you're just going to see that talent utilization rate is you're going to get great talent that is frustrated or confused or disengaged, not going anywhere. So you got to balance both sides of this. And this is how we hold it strategically at the company, is there's this, okay, how do we keep raising the bar on the talent quality of the company, especially as we scale? As we've gone from 1,000 to 5,000 to, 10,000 employees on our way to 20. It's like, great. How do we make sure that the talent we have is truly exceptional? We're a talent dense organization, but then are we giving them a Brickster experience that unlocks all that talent, that really helps people
Mm.
make the biggest contribution they possibly can. We've got this adage of the easy stuff should be easy so that the hard work of our mission can be what people are spending their energy on. Like, is the easy stuff easy here, or is it hard? And like, I'm not gonna lie to you, as a hyperscaling company, there's a lot of easy stuff that's really hard.
Right.
Here.
So then do you think about, a lot of times I've heard over the years, people say one of the biggest jobs for a manager or a leader is to remove obstacles for people on their team, right? So they can get things done.
Smooth the motion. That's the way. So when we think about the Brickster experience, what we've written this model, a framework of, okay, what's all the stuff that goes into the either enablers or obstacles to someone's being a part of the organization and contributing to their maximum. And then how do we just curate it, care for it, garden it, as opposed to just let all those weeds bog people down and tackle people. Like, we've set up this jungle of work processes and policies, and then people say, hey, help, give us talent development, give us learning. And sometimes it feels like what we first do in talent development is we start being like, oh shoot, let's give them machetes and let's give them compasses and let's help them through this jungle. And I'm like, make it not a jungle. Does it have to be a jungle? Like, instead of giving all these poor folks in the company these machetes and compasses, can we just pave the road so that it's a lot easier to travel down? And so that's my argument, is start with paving the road wherever you can, smooth the motion, get the Brickster experience in an optimized place. And that's not to say we want people's jobs to be easy. We got big problems we're trying to solve for our customers and for our markets. Yeah, but let that be where the hard work's going, not how do I get this expense report approved, or wait, where am I allowed to travel, and how's that? Why is that stuff hard? Make it easy, make it simple.
Want them to focus their brain power on the biggest problems, and still want them to get out of their comfort zone, but to do new and innovative and hard things, not get bogged down with administrative stuff.
That's it. So watch both sides of that. Like, in talent management, especially, you got to watch the caliber of the talent. There's a lot we do to say, is this right? Are we creating enough pressure on the system to make sure we've got great talent? And great is relative. Great for us, great for our mission, our strategy, this role specifically. But we are really putting in a lot of rigor on the assessment of, like, is this great talent? And if not, how do we make sure we keep driving that talent density? But if we're only doing that, and then we're not giving the capability to the company that we're after, you got to balance that Brickster experience, that worker experience.
I feel like along with that, and in order for that to be possible, and you want people to be thinking innovatively, you also have to make sure you're creating a level of psychological safety, for lack of a better word, and incentivizing more of a growth mindset and people suggesting things rather than saying, oh, this is the way we've always done it.
It's funny because like, psychological safety has been taking some hits lately. I like to go down to first principles and the root cause. And the root cause is this, like, again, back to talent utilization and back to this concept of leadership and wanting everyone to have not only the opportunity to lead, but the imperative to lead from their seat of opportunity, like of responsibility in the company. Like, if folks are holding back because they're, afraid or confused or disengaged, then your talent utilization's nowhere near 50%, 60%, 80%, right? That's where you get that power. And so when we say psychological safety, what does that actually mean? It means people aren't holding back. They're not, like, they are taking the risks, saying the words, putting their point of view into the company. And it's like, it doesn't mean everyone feels comfortable all the time, because no, when you enable that, there's a lot of uncomfortable that comes with that. And it's not to say everyone's aligned and happy all the time. No, true psychological safety unlocked in a company that's got a clear mission it can be a disruptive force and it can be something that creates a lot of discomfort, but it's productive discomfort because people aren't holding back. They're weighing in, they're in the debate. And so that's the test for folks, is like, do we need that to be high performing? Oh my gosh, absolutely. Right. We need people to be like, there's the whole principle. I think Amazon's made it famous: disagree and commit. It starts with disagree. Right.
Which is okay.
The commit part is what gets all the attention, but it's like, no, disagree first. When it's time to disagree, do you? And that I think is the gate. So absolutely, you got to get that.
Yeah, and it's okay to disagree, but if everybody decides like this is the best way forward, then
Once you
you go.
decide,
And
then you got to commit. You got to get
yeah,
both of them.
I think Jeff Bezos famously disagreed when they came and presented the idea to go with Prime Video Media and like the movie strategy, and but he said, "Okay, you guys think it's a good idea? We'll commit and do it." And now, obviously, it's a big part of the business and the organization. So, some great stories to that. We talked earlier about manager development, leadership development. I want to come back to that for a minute to hear more about your approach. And I remember last time we talked, you also said something about the knowing doing problem.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you could say more about that and how that influences your thought process on manager development.
This was another part of my jump from being in kind of talent development, more pure, to moving into some of the more broad talent management levers. Is it was this aha moment for me of, oh man, all of us are capable of more than we're given to these companies that we're working with and working for. Oh shoot, that's not a learning gap, is it? And like it was this, the way I tell the story is that, it was at McKesson. Let's say we're at McKesson, and let's go say I'm doing one of those leadership development programs that I was talking about. I go put 40 people in a room, any level in the company, whatever level of management, whatever level of the contributor ladder, wherever you are, whatever geography, whatever functional area, I don't care. Put them in the room. You got 40 folks, and I just, question number one, before I say anything, welcome to our leadership development class. Hey, everyone, as managers in this company, can you think of one thing you could do more of, less of, or differently to be a better manager for your team? I'm just going to give you 30 seconds. Guarantee you every single person I put in that room could think of something in that 30 seconds.
Right.
And then all I got to do is just say, okay, go do that. Class over. Right? It's not a knowledge gap. We know those little things we could do a little bit more of, a little bit less of, or a little bit differently to be better as leaders for our kind of mission or that vision we're trying to realize, or managers for our teams or the programs that whatever it is, what like things you could do better. It's not a knowing gap. It's a doing gap. The things we know, are we doing it? And so increasingly, as I've tried to work on the leadership or any of the talent capability needs of the company, or call them gaps, I've just increasingly focused less on giving people knowledge and learning and more on building focus and accountability in the company. It's like, we know we're already capable of it or of more. Am I focused on doing it? And how do we make it the job to be done for people? And then once you've made it the job to be done, then it's like, great, now make sure folks have smooth motion. They're not hacking through a jungle that doesn't need to be a jungle, that they've got enablement and they've got like tools. And guess what? They might be like, it'd be great to have a coach or a learning class because I'm trying to do this thing that I want to do a little bit better. And that's like, oh, well, here's this thing. We got to flip the paradigm. Like we used to do, like I believe what I was taught to do growing up in this space over the past 20 years was, teach. It's what do we teach? How do we teach it? When do we teach it? Who do we teach it to? Okay, how do we teach it again? And I've just flipped that to, it's not teach. It's got to be say, measure, then teach. And the say is very clearly help people to understand this is the job to do. This is the thing to focus on. This is the thing to be great at. And then once you've said it, then it's measure, create consequential measurement, and even better, consequential accountability, not just measurement, measurements that matter in some way, shape, or form. And then what you're going to watch is, instead of us pushing all this teach and hoping people gobble it up, you get pull for the teach. So of course we should teach, but say, measure, then teach. And if I'd ever get to the teach, I still know I'm going to have moved the capability of the company, because that focus and that accountability goes, like, you just see what people are already capable of getting turned on. Like,
can you give an example of that? How you've used it there or in a previous company?
so, for example, one of our big objectives is manager excellence. And what company wouldn't want great people management in throughout the company? And so, what do we do? And instead of us just going like, great, well then where's the manager development course? What are we teaching people during onboarding? What's the thing they go through in their first year of being a manager? Let's say they're in their kind of year 5 of being a manager. What's the course they get there, or what's the coach we assigned? If that's all that's in your program, don't be surprised if it's not working very well, because again, it's not a knowing problem. It's a knowing doing problem. And I'll say it's not only a knowing problem, because if you have that curriculum, it's incredibly powerful. It's great. But instead of just that, do we also have a very clear call to leadership for people in manager positions, or call to great managers? So we've established like what we call our Databricks leadership essentials. And it is our leadership model. And every one of your companies has this, I'm sure, but you've got to have a really clear set of being a manager or doing the work of leadership. This is what it looks like. You got to have spark in your team. You got to have clear target. You got to have the talent in the team, or this elite team is what we call it. You got to drive execution. You got to reinforce the culture. And so our model is STEER. That's the acronym. And like, does every manager know that? Have we very clearly said, this is what you're going to be held accountable for? This is the job when you're taking on people management. So having a very clear leadership framework. We then have built that leadership framework into something we call the BLI, our Brickster Leadership Index. So twice a year, every Brickster answers a set of questions about their manager, anchored to those STEER elements. This, spark on the team, how clear the targets are, the quality of the talent, the execution, etc. And so then every manager twice a year sees, oh, wow, my BLI is a little bit off. Or a little bit different than the last time we did this. And then layers of management are looking at BLIs for the other managers. We've turned it into this thing that is like, do this well. Like, here's what it is.
And we're going to measure it.
It gets you data. And then sure enough, there's like, and oh, you want a coach? Oh, you want some classes? Oh, you want some content? Great, let's feed that.
I would imagine you provide incentives around that as well, right?
Well, it's just being productive. That's the incentive. Yeah. But if you ask kind of like what we look at when we promote someone up our management ranks, STEER's the framework we're assessing. When we look at performance and the performance of managers, we have explicit sections against STEER. It's this idea of a really clear call and definition of what the work is. Then there's accountability built in for it. And then, bunch of programs, bunch of coaching to help people learn and grow into it. But man, the world is awash in learning, like what you're doing. Yeah. Anyway, like this doesn't need to I don't need to build what you're doing here. I just need my people to know that you're doing this and tap into it. You see what I mean? Yeah. Like, the world is just swimming in great ideas and great content.
Tons of great content.
Focus. So what I get our team to work on a lot more than building things that are this is like, no, let's create that focus and that accountability so that our people go tap into the world around them of things like that.
Yeah, you vocalize so well something I've thought about and talked about a lot. I think I wrote about it a little bit in my first book, which is the idea that we live in a time of unprecedented access to knowledge. Like there's no one doesn't have access to the knowledge of the things they need. And now with ChatGPT in our pocket, let alone the internet, anything else, you can get access.
Get a professor. It's crazy.
To teach you how to do anything you want. The difference between, those who are successful and those who are not, to simplify it, is just implementation. What are you doing with that knowledge, and are you implementing it? It's out there. But are you giving people time and space and guidance on how to take action, incentivizing them in the right way to take action on those things?
That's it. It's this, the focus and energy. Those are the two things you want to get. Like, what are people focused on, and how do you help curate and guide and steward that? And then how do you help make sure that there's maximum energy or intentionality? Because focus becomes intention, right? Focus with energy. Fueled with energy becomes intention. And man, when you can help people get that focus, get that intention, and then channel, there's so many channels they can channel it into. It's awesome. So
yeah, the last topic I wanted to ask you about is career development, something that I'm very passionate about and work to help a lot of organizations and people with. How do you think about and approach career development at Databricks and think about helping people grow in their careers, which is something we know is really important to most people on average?
yeah, I think the first thing to know, so if I'm going to give folks general career advice, especially folks that are coming out of an undergrad degree or a graduate degree, or they're kind of still relatively early in their career, I think the first thing to know about yourself is um, how mature and curated and organized you want the system to be around you for your own optimal learning and for your own optimal experience. Because what you're going to constantly be balancing in your career development journey is your day-to-day happiness and satisfaction with the long-term investments you're making and kind of where it's going. And you don't want to fail in either one of those. You don't want a day-to-day experience that's really crappy. And man, I really don't like my days, but the idea of where I can be 10 years from now is so cool. And it's so like, you want to get that right balance of I love my day and I love where I'm going to be 10 years from now because of the investments I'm making with my day and where it's ultimately going. Mm-hmm. But one thing to know as you're thinking about that balance is like there are companies you could go into that are much more mature and have a lot more proven paths. And you get to just work that path and be in a calmer, clearer environment that will take you from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. And not all of those steps go straight up. A lot of the steps are kind of lateral and then up and then, but it's organized. It's mm-hmm. clear. I've always defaulted to the alternative, which is really messy, chaotic, pioneering environments. Mm-hmm. And what I've loved about those is those are the kind of environments where you get given things to do well before you're ready to do them, mm-hmm. mainly because there's just no one else to do. It has to happen and you're the one that's there and here we go. And so like, if, I tend to coach towards the biggest thing that will develop you in your career is really gnarly, hard experiences. Mm-hmm. And so do you have the opportunity, if not the responsibility, to take weight on? And in environments like Databricks, man, we are awash in that. Like there's no one's job that is not twice as large this year as it was last year and twice as large as it like 4 times as large as it was the year before. We're just scaling as a company so quickly. And any of these hyper-scaling companies would fit this bill of, man, this is the kind of environment where you will have the opportunity, if not the responsibility, to just take the weight that is gonna grow you. It's just gonna mm-hmm. grow you as you hold that and move with it and learn from it. That said, the trade-off is we don't have a lot of those proven paths you would get at a big consulting company like a McKinsey or a Deloitte or at a law firm or even in a GE or a Pepsi that have a lot mm-hmm. more proven paths. Now, what I would tell you about the McKessons or the P&Gs or the Pepsis of the world is those proven paths have also started breaking down. They're just a lot more volatile environments career-wise than they used to be because the world is just working a lot more like that. So like, know yourself and pick the environment that is going to work the best with how you grow and how you perform and enjoy your day. But if mm-hmm. you can make at no matter what, you have to have some ingredient of stretch, challenge, weight.
Yeah. And so you're trying to support Bricksters in finding these areas and stretching.
Now that's easy for us. The tougher part is, do you then have the coaching? Or, mm-hmm. So if you go to the 3 E's model of experience is the big one, mm-hmm. exposure is the second one, and exposure is some exposure to like folks that can give you coaching, give you the chance mm-hmm. to reflect on the challenge that you're holding, support and scaffolding to help make sure that weight isn't burying you and confusing you and hurting you, mm-hmm. but is actually so it's kind of like the coach in the gym that's helping this be a productive way down as opposed to an unproductive way down. That also needs, and we're a little bit messier in that, but we're standing that scaffolding up. And then, mm-hmm. man, it's so good to have a curated, organized curriculum, which we've already talked about. We've got stuff, but it's not a ton of stuff. Because again, we're just growing and changing and moving so fast. Right. So those are always going to be your ingredients in career development is like stretch, healthy stretch, good coaching and guidance and mentorship and opportunity to reflect, and then ideally tapping. But again, the content stuff is easy. You'll take care of that yourself. What you got to go find is that right combination of, man, I'm being handed some heavy stuff in the right way, and I've got good support and guidance from like senior folks or experienced folks around me that can help me chew on this and succeed without taking the weight away from me to do it.
Right. I love this, Andrew. So much good stuff here. A few more quick questions for our, what we'll call the bonus round here. Thinking about your own career, you've worked in some pretty interesting, prominent positions in talent management, talent development, and some very impressive companies. What would you say has been your proudest moment or biggest accomplishment in your career so far?
Oh, that's so hard. The thing I like, I won't give you one specific because I'm terrible at that, like best movie or favorite book. I'm just terrible. When I look back on my career so far, I would say the things I'm the most proud of fall into one of two, maybe one of three categories. Category one is the teams that I've been part of or that I've built, like the people. Like, man, like back to the career development question, I didn't say this, but as I look back at the teams and the people around me, like when you're around exceptional, unbelievable people that are really engaged and connect to each other, there's nothing more rewarding or developmental than that. Like you learn more, you get more done. It brings out the best in you. So just the people around you, are you bringing out the best in them? Are they bringing out the best in you? And if the answer is no to that, or like not right now, like lean in. And that doesn't mean run away. What that means is go build it. Because guess what? It's like there's no environment I've dropped into where that's just perfect. And that's just sure you got to work on that, just like you got to work in any relationship in your life. But the relationships by far is bucket one. Bucket two is, I think you'd call it lasting organizational impact. There are a number of things I look back at Linkage or at McKesson that were, at this point now over a decade ago that are still part of the culture and the system and the legacy of the place that I look back and I go, oh, that's really cool. That was like, ooh, that lasted. And then the third is it's fun to look back and think over this past, 20 years at this point and go like how I was working and leading 10 years ago versus how I'm my own growth and my own development. It's so clear when you look back over a period. And it's like, when I think about the year, then I felt so stuck and I felt like it was such a heavy challenge. And there's definitely a correlation between that bucket two of things I look at that I created or was part of that are lasting and those times where like, oh man, I grew so much and I'm so different now because of those experiences. Such a correlation between the two of those. And it actually does go back to team because those are also the groups of people that I'm like, that was such a special group of people to be working with that talk about people I learned and grew with. But
and it shows how much you've grown, and it's so important to look back and see how much you've grown, and it's okay to be embarrassed about how much you didn't know in the beginning because that's what comes with learning and growth. What's the saying? If you can't look back at the early part of your career and think of yourself as an idiot, then that means you haven't grown very much like you.
We used to talk about this in talent reviews. There was, there's a big difference between someone that's got 10 years of experience and someone that's got 10 years of 1 year's worth of experience. And they're like, just time in it isn't it. It's time under tension. Right. That's what you're looking at. And guess what happens with tension is you grow into it. So you got to keep that stretch, because got to keep piling.
Yeah.
So
we talked about best, proudest moments. On the other side, have there been any big mistakes or failures that you've made that were great lessons learned for you in your career?
So many. I think the ones that I'm much more careful about now than I think I used to be are hiring. I think I've made any time that I look back and I was questioning the hiring decision and being like, is that, and I let myself get talked into it because of someone else's impression of the person or someone else, and it just becomes like years worth of, oh gosh, here we are. And so I just don't settle, never settle. Any hiring opportunity you get, take it so seriously, lean all the way in, and just never settle, because every member of that, like a team you put together or are responsible for, like I mean, I like to think about it with, we use this metaphor in a program we ran last year of, think about a crew team, and we were just in the Olympics. So you're watching the crew teams in the Olympics. You got these 4 seats. There's this footage of the Netherlands boat just inching out the Great Britain's boat in the finals of the women's. And this, you got 4 seats in that boat. Every single one of those seats matter. So many of the mistakes I look back on were hiring mistakes. The other big ones, I think it's I'll frame it this way. Your relationship with yourself, or moments where in my relationship with myself, when I was listening to the wrong coach. And when I say that, what I mean is I just kind of come up with this mental image of, I got 2 voices in my head. One that is, my inner critic, is others have called it, or my inner saboteur, others have called it. But this, you didn't do that right, or you're not this, or how dare you, or God, that was stupid. And that voice is constantly going. And then there's others that, I know how to coach someone else to bring out the best in them. And sometimes I can say that stuff to myself, and I know that voice is there. Which one am I feeding? And I can flash back on seasons when I was really feeding the inner critic and just let myself get wrecked and garbled up. And then there's other times where I've let that, again, it's going to be running. You just got to not pay that coach. Don't give it, don't let it.
We're always hard on ourselves. We're always hard on ourselves. We put pressure on ourselves. But the old advice, don't talk to yourself.
But it's
you wouldn't talk to your best friend, right?
Yeah, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like when I'm listening to it, I've just, those are the seasons when I look back and I go, ooh, and it's, I'm sure there's a correlation there. Like, am I hard on myself because it's a tough season, or is it a tough season? And the answer is yes. Yeah. Like I say it to my sons all the time. One of my most common parenting lines is what you're doing making it better or making it worse? Something's happening that's bothering you right now. That's true. Something bad happened. You're having a reaction to it and you're doing things. Is what you're doing making it better or making it worse? And there are times I look back where I'm like, God, I made that so much worse.
I made it worse. Yeah, exactly.
Why do we do that? So
having a tantrum about it rarely makes it better. Complaining rarely does. Getting back to talent development, are there any trends that you're following right now you're excited about?
AI, we already talked about. That's a big one. I think that one's going to squash any other trends that are going on. I think the other push that I am really trying to drive my team is again, think about the accountability mechanisms of the company, and you'll be amazed at how you see that move behavior more than thinking about the learning mechanisms of the company. And so just thinking about the relationship between the accountability versus the learning mechanism. But even more powerful than the accountability mechanism is what I'm calling this motion management. And this is, again, we want people to get the job done. Are we teaching them how to use a machete, holding them accountable for using that machete, or are we smoothing the jungle and making it a road that is a lot easier to travel? And so I think motion management is more powerful than accountability management, which is much more powerful than learning management. And so moving up that continuum of kind of intervention leverage or intervention impact. Data is a huge one. I just think it's hand in hand with AI, and it's obviously the Kool-Aid we drink here at Databricks. But this idea of how much power do you get from data versus not is huge to tap into. And I think we've got to get a lot better at this in HR. We're better than we were 3-4 years ago, but oh my gosh, data and data intelligence is going to be huge for HR. So those are a handful.
I know you say you don't like being put on the spot for things like this, but has there been a book or a TED Talk that's made a big impact for you or that you often recommend to others?
So many. One of my mentors was Warren Bennis. So if you're talking leadership, just everyone should have read on becoming a leader. I think one of the lines, just to give that a small plug, Warren used to always talk about the word for authority and author. It's the same root word. And it's this idea of who's got the pen in your life, the pen in your story. And he kind of really anchors what is leadership. Leadership is taking the pen, and it's like you take the authorship and the authority, and he kind of unpacks through so many great, like, I mean, I think he is the father of modern leadership theory. So On Becoming a Leader, or anything Warren wrote, is just good, great stuff to go back to. Recent podcasts or TED Talks. Back to the whole coach you're listening to. There is a TED Talk that I do recommend quite a bit, and it's just Google your inner saboteur and TED Talk, and it was like a TEDx. It wasn't even a main event talk, but man, he just nails it. And I even went through and did his assessment. So yeah, inner saboteur is well worth the time if you see that one.
Just did a quick Google. I think that's Know Your Inner Saboteur, Shirzad Shamin at TEDx Stanford.
It's brilliant. Stanford. Yeah, that's it. That's the one. Watch that. It's 18 minutes. And to me, it hit me at exactly the right time in my career, at one of those troughs I was talking about. And it just was like, oh my God. It was a turnaround moment. I've had others watch it who are not in one of those troughs. They're like, yeah, it's fine. So, but man, you get that one at the right time.
Timing is everything. Yeah. Last question for you, Andrew. You've held talent leadership positions at a number of companies. You're doing some really innovative work. For those out there in talent development who are looking for ways to grow and maybe accelerate success in their own careers, what's one more piece of advice you would give?
I'm going to go back to what we talked about earlier, which is I just would be on the cutting edge of playing with AI, just experimenting with it, being productive with it. You got to hold these two things at the same time. Number one is, how do you be on the cutting edge of the tools available to you? And then how do you be anchoring yourself to the proven, lasting principles of our space? Like, we deal with these concepts that are ancient, like leadership and relationship and mission, and like culture. And you got to know those things deeply. And there's eons of literature and wisdom you can tap into. And then we got all these tools available to us that are just transforming how things get done. Like, you got to hold both that left and that right, that yin and that yang, of being deep in the deep old things and then being like on the edge of playing with those tools, because it's just going to make you like groundedly so productive. And it's like that's what I look for in the people around me, is these deep anchored thinking, like thinkers that can go into the deep. And man, they're just on the cutting edge of, how do we turn this into something productive? How do we really get leverage and make the impact?
Absolutely. Andrew, this has been so interesting. For anybody that wants to reach out and talk more about this stuff, I would imagine they can find you on LinkedIn. Where's the best place for them to go?
LinkedIn. Yeah. Anywhere. I'm not great at it, but if you ping me and give it a few weeks, I'm not actively out there doing my LinkedIn, but yeah,
hey, I got you.
I love benchmarking. I love talking about this stuff. As you can tell, I'm a big nerd for it, and we're all learning in the space. So,
well, this has been awesome. I think this is one of the longest interviews we've done in a while, because there's so much interesting stuff to talk about here that I know is going to be really interesting and valuable for all of our listeners. So thank you again for making the time to come on and talk with me and our listeners about all the things talent development, talent management. I appreciate it. And I look forward to talking with you more in the future.
Andy, such a pleasure. Honestly, it's an honor. Excited to be here.